Anybody else taken back to their disco days? Yeah. I mean, I remember them. I was too young. I remember that stuff. Yes. Hey, Bob, would you hand me my water down there? So, okay, I'm going to start with a quote. Thank you, Robert.
You're very welcome.
A quote by Hunter S. Thompson. Do y'all know who that is?
Yes.
Gonzo, exactly. An American journalist. That's all you need to know if you don't know him, although he was quite radical. He said this: life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body. I'll have to work on that. But rather, to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride!" So, whose life is on that trajectory? And the rest of you? You're like, I want the well-born body. I want to make sure I look good in that casket. Yeah. That, to me, is living out loud. Not being so careful all the time, not worrying what's gonna happen, but literally living in each moment to such a degree that every single moment is vibrant with amazingness, yes? Yes. Okay, that doesn't mean we have to go around screaming all the time, does it? Who said yeah? Well, you can scream all the time, but you don't have to. Living out loud is not just about volume, it's about intention. It's about authenticity. It's so funny, Lacey, are you here? Take a look at what Lacey's wearing today. Lacey is like the loudest dresser I know, and she showed up today in gray, and I looked at her in Namaste, and I was like, what were you thinking? She went, this to me is loud, considering who I really am. And I went, oh my God, I totally get it. That's a bold statement for her. So living out loud isn't about necessarily how bright we can be, although keep it up, I'm loving it. It's really about how bold are we in our intention to live life to the fullest. That's what that's all about here. And I have to tell you that this quote came from my son. I'd never seen this quote. And yesterday, he's doing a prayer project for his Catholic school, and he had to do a whole prayer thing, and he really went literally out of the box and out of his comfort zone to write this whole 10-minute thing that he'll do in school tomorrow in a Catholic school and start with this quote, and hopefully none of them will know who he's quoting. And he did this whole thing, and he used Ernest Holmes quotes, and he wanted them all to take a moment of reflection, turn to one another, and speak the truth, and I was like, he said, what do you think? You think I'll get an A? I said, you'll either get an A or an F. And I will be proud with either mark. So, especially when he showed me everybody else's prayer things, and it was all about Jesus and the Bible, and I said, well, you could have added a little Jesus. You know, we come from that tradition as well. He said, I know, but I think I wanted to do this. And I was like, great, have at it. Live out loud. And then don't be afraid if they start screaming at you. So it's okay. So, I asked the question, whose life is on the trajectory of skidding into home plate fully used up? And it's funny, too, because my kids, we are selling this building, and they were like, we really thought we would inherit this building. And right? And I said to them, just to be perfectly clear, I don't think you're going to be inheriting anything because I plan on using it all. I said, I plan on living such an enormous life and spending everything I have. And their faces are like, but they both got it. I said, and here's the deal. By the time I expire, by the time I skid into home plate at 120, think about it, you'll be 80. And if you haven't done with your life what you should do with your life, not my problem. And Will and Nora both were like, I'm not sure about this parenting style you have. And I was like, no, don't you get it? And by the way, there will be plenty when we pass. I mean, I'm sure there will be. I just expect life is so infinite in its scope, you can't possibly use it all up. You know that, right? So those of you that are still holding on to the little bit you have, trying to make sure you don't give it away because you may need it, you got it backwards. And that's why life shows up in a limited way. And that's what this whole month is about, living out loud in all areas of our life. So, there's a new me coming out. There's a new me coming out. Talking about my teenage children at 15. How many of you have raised children? Okay, how many of you are raising children now that haven't hit their teens yet? Okay, good luck. So, no, the truth is I'm loving their teenage years just as much as their younger years. But I will tell you this about their teenage years. I don't know who they are from day to day. I don't, because they're coming out as different people with different ideas and different likes and dislikes, and that's got to be okay. So, in my son's project, when he woke up this morning, I woke him up, I said, hey, did you really write this? Because I'm going to quote you. If you found this somewhere, please tell me. Did you write it? And he's like, what? What are you asking me? I said, did you write this quote, the affirmation? He went, yes, I wrote it. This is what he wrote. Life is meant to be lived fully and to spend every minute relishing in the richness it offers you. Without utilizing every opportunity to experience this world, you are not truly living, but merely existing. 15. A 15-year-old boy wrote that. Granted, he's my son, but so he's had some influence. But still, a 15-year-old boy wrote that. How many of us at our ages, at 60, are merely existing in certain areas of our life? Merely existing. That we're not truly living, but we are merely existing. And you know why we get caught up in that pattern of merely existing instead of living life to the fullest? Because we're buying all of the things that are being sold us. We are buying our past. We are buying the present notion of what it means to be alive in this planet at this time. We're buying the wrong bill of goods. Life is meant to be lived fully. How many of us are merely existing? Ernest Holmes said this: unless we become the living embodiment of love and light, we shall have no justification in saying that God is love and light. Now, I just want you to hear that for a minute. Unless we become the living embodiment of love and light, we shall have no justification in saying that God is love and light. And if we take that into many other areas, what he's saying is, how dare we say God is this and I am something else? How dare we say God is the infinite power of the universe and then diminish ourselves? How do we know? If God is not that which I am, if I don't meet God and understand God in the self-consciousness of my mind, how do I know what God really is, other than buying a bill of goods that someone else sold me, which will not benefit me? When we're in meditation and contemplation, when we go out to the ocean and sit there and feel the amazing breadth and depth of the universe, that's not something out there showing us, that's something in here remembering. And that's our job. And that's what he's saying. Unless we become the living embodiment of love and light, we shall have no justification in saying that God is love and light. God is who you are right now in this moment. That's who God is right now, showing up this way, because God gave us volition and choice to decide how we wanted to live it. Deciding how we want to live as it. Ernest Holmes also says, unless we use the freedom we have without abusing it, we shall have no justification in saying that man is master of his own soul, the creator of his own destiny, and the arbiter of his own faith. In other words, how dare we say that in God all things are possible and turn around and say, in me all things are limited? How dare we say that about ourselves? How dare we say that everything is possible and then turn around and point to why some things aren't for me? We can't know a dualistic version of life without, unfortunately, living a dualistic version of life. What we know, we live. What we know is who we are. So I would think that what our job to do on this planet is to ever expand our consciousness of knowing so that we can be what we know in a more expanded way. He goes on to say, but if we can bind ourselves together reverently, in love and compassion, in mutual tolerance and understanding, under the cohesive powers of a universal law of good and the beneficence of a divine and universal presence, then shall we be able to use liberty without license, to diffuse unity with uniformity, and to lead the world down the pathway of a new enlightenment. I don't normally read this much Ernest Holmes on a Sunday morning. I don't usually use this dense a quote. But I figured since today we were coming out anyway, we could come out in an understanding that these words that Ernest Holmes has written are not just pleasant, nice words. They are action steps. They are call to action steps. A new enlightenment. That's what's coming out, a new enlightenment. That's why you have all gravitated to this teaching and to this teacher. Because we are about a new enlightenment. I'm not interested in an old way of doing things. I'm interested in what did the old way of doing things teach me, and now where do I go? Isn't that what you all want? That's what living out loud is. It's not about throwing it all away. I would never want to throw the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth away. I have a better relationship with him today than I ever had as a Catholic, than I ever had as a Christian. I have a stronger and deeper knowing about that man's life than I ever had when it was just religion. Now it's a spiritual experience of who that man was, is, and still is. And that goes across the board. Buddha, Gandhi, all of the great, great leaders, Plato, Aristotle, all of them, everything, the transcendentalists, Eric Holmes, all of the great, great, great people. Mary Baker Eddy, who brought Christian Science to the world. You know, that's all of it. All of it adds up to a brilliance that then allows me to take that and go somewhere else, not just sit in it. So, unless we become the living embodiment of love and light, we shall have no justification in saying that God is love and light. How can you say that you are whatever if that's not who you live? How can we say I am God if it's not who we live, how we live? I can't anymore. I can't keep saying I am God and live as something else. It just doesn't work in my life. How can you be a brain surgeon if you do not do brain surgery? Rhetorical question, don't answer me yet. Can you be a writer if you do not write? Just keep thinking. Can you be a runner if you're not running? If you don't run? Can you be alive if you do not live? Obviously, the answer is yes. Just like you can be God even if you don't live as God. There's the conundrum. Yes, I can be God even if I'm not living as God. I can be a brain surgeon and not do what I am. I can be a writer and never write. How many actors do I hear in this city that tell me they're an actor? They haven't acted in years. They're just waiting for a TV series. And if that's you, we'll talk. If you're an actor, you act. If you're a writer, you write. If you're a dancer, you dance. If you're a singer, you sing. If you are God, you do it all with flair. I mean, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Are you living out loud? Meaning, do you know who you are and are you living it? Coming out. You know, people talk about coming out and it's all about, coming out of closets. And I have come out of closets one after the other through my whole life. I remember when I really came out as gay, and it was just so funny because most of the people that I told were like, uh-huh. And, I told my aunt, and I thought it was this big monumental thing, and my Aunt Jerry, and I was like, Jer, I have something to tell you. She says, you're gay. I was like, my God, how could you tell? And she was like, have you met you? Because this is right after the red pants and the blue shirts. She was like, Jimmy, it's not a big deal. I was like, oh my God, does everybody know? She goes, pretty much. And she was like, except your parents. She said, they refused to hear that. And then I had to tell them. I had to tell them, really take them aside and tell them, no, I really am gay. And I remember my mother saying, all the girls you've dated. I was like, yeah, they're miffed too. So that was the first closet I came out of, as a gay man. But then I got to tell you, you come out as a gay man, and for me anyway, the evolution had to be, I now need to come out of the closet as just a man. Forget the gay part, because that's not who I am. It just happens to define the man I chose to spend my life with. That's it. Not that I'm minimizing you. Not that that's it. That was great. I love it, still love it. So, just being clear. He just said, we'll talk. So then it's just about coming out as a man, just as a man. But you know what? That was another closet. To put that aside and go, that's not the be-all, end-all. And then the next one was coming out as a divine man. After I got into religious science and go, wait, I am the divinity of all mankind. I am that I am. Coming out of the closet as that wasn't easy either, with a lot of people who have a hard time with that concept. But then even more so, the next closet was, I'm not a divine man, I am a divine being. And then the final closet, which is, I am not any of it. I am actually that which is divine. I am being divine. Not a divine being. I am being divine. I am being the presence in all that I do. So, I'm here today to ask you to give some thought to coming out of that final closet. To come out of that closet and start being who you are. And leaving all the titles behind you. The titles are great. I love being a director. I love being an actor. I love being a singer. I love being a minister, still a title. I love doing all of it. But when I'm at home in my backyard grabbing a hose and watering a plant, I'm not a minister. I'm not an actor. I'm none of it. I'm all of it. But what's over all of it? And that is, I am one with that plant. I am part of the divine energy of that plant that I'm watering. I'm a part of the divine energy of the water coming out. I'm part of the divine energy of the hose that's going into the spigot, that's tied into the water power in my house, that's tied into the water power of the city, that's tied into the water power of the universe. There's a concept. That's coming out of the closet. So that everywhere we go, no matter where we are, right where I am, right, and now it's not just words, because it is time for us, if we're going to live out loud, and we have to live these words. We have to live the truth that I am God. Yes. And I can no longer say I am God if I'm acting like something else, if I'm being something else. It must be the go-to idea in your mind when anything happens. No matter what happens, the go-to must be, wait. I know who I am. I am God. I think we need those things. What would God do in this situation? Because maybe if I ask myself, what would God do in this situation, I won't react the way James has always reacted. I might try a new approach. I might try something brand new. So, who am I? I know the answer to that. Living the answer to that is another story. So as I said to you earlier today, love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. Okay, great, beautiful mission, beautiful vision statement, and it has saved my butt a lot this year to remember who I am, to love only, and to forgive, as Karen said this morning, everything. My son asked me recently, he did something that I wasn't very happy about, and he said to me, do you think less of me? And I said no instantly, but then I kept thinking about it. Because if he asked me if I think less of him, he must have felt that energy from me. And then I had to take it and say, So how do you really distill this from and as the eyes and the ears and the knowing of God? And it's this, because I do not think we need to live on the planet La La Land and avoid what's going on in our lives. And what I came to understand is this: I do not think less of you. I may think less of the behavior. And you are not your behaviors. You are the energy that makes the decisions and the choice to behave in a certain manner. And sometimes those choices may not add up to the sentence, I am God, at its highest level. And when I was able to understand that for myself, I felt like I had literally, I get very verklempt about this, had been awakened from within to understand the difference between having an opinion and judgment. Yes, I can know this behavior doesn't work for me, but I can also know that you are perfect, because there is something inside each and every one of us that has never been touched, has never been tarnished, has never made a bad decision, has never made a mistake, has never done a wrong thing, has never even experienced anything other than its own perfection. There is that within every single one of us that knows what it is and that continually pushes up against us saying, live me, live me, live me. Take a moment here and live me. Know me in this instance. Know the power that I am, because you are the I am. And if you just take a second and remember who you are, and remember to live who you are, your next moment will be much richer, will be much better, will be much stronger, will be much more filled with love and perfection, because that's the truth of who you are. I am coming out of this beautiful web that I may have constructed for myself with all the different titles, and I am a man who has a hat tree that has so many hats on it, I don't know which hat to pick up sometimes. But when I really get it, that I am coming out as the divine perfection of the universe, and I know who I am, and now I'm coming out as someone who's ready to live who I am. Not just remember it, but to live it. And when I live it, I can't even imagine what's going to come from that. Talk about the expansion. That's mine to know and mine to do, and it's every single one of yours to know and to do, and every single one of yours online to know and to do. That's who we are. That's the emergence of this new understanding of spirituality. I'm ready to do it. Are you? Yeah. Namaste.